Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How is everybody tonight?
Tonight's episode is going to be a kind of fun one. We're going to do it a little bit different than we normally do. You will have an article tonight of some pretty amazing claims, and we are going to get to the bottom of whether they're true or not. But I'm going to do it in a little bit of a different way because I have kind of a cold going on right now. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, and I'm afraid that I'm going to start coughing at any moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this off by reading the article, and then we're going to try to answer the question of, is it true? Did this actually happen or not? And what I'll do is I'll throw over to Old Boy first and get his opinion on it, and then I'll come in at the end and give the actual science of it and explain whether or not it's a real thing or a fake thing. The article is real. I'll tell you that right off the bat. It's a 100% real article. The article comes from newsintact.com. And the headline here is Army Scientist Successfully Teleports Soldiers from Massachusetts to Germany. It is published on May 14th of 2019. And it goes as follows. According to the Natick Soldier System Center, NSSC, scientists have managed to successfully teleport a fully equipped squad from Massachusetts to a training area in Germany. Teleportation is the process of moving objects from one place to the other, thanks to the transformation of matter into energy, and its subsequent reconstruction based on Einstein's famous formula. We must take into account that there is no direct relation between teleportation as defined in science fiction and quantum teleportation, which is a technical scientific term used in quantum physics to denote information transport. The idea of teleportation became famous thanks to the Star Trek series. In that series, characters moved from their ship to other planets with incredible ease. At the same time, a Moscow was influenced by the tale of George Langeland and studied the idea and constructed equipment that allowed the teleportation of matter in 1958. So that is the end of the article. What they're essentially claiming here is that a team of Army scientists were able to successfully teleport soldiers from Massachusetts in the United States of America all the way over to Germany. That is the claim. And you have now heard the article. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw over to Old Boy, and I'm going to get his opinion on this and see what he thinks, whether it is real or whether it is not real. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother, and good evening, guys. And I'm going to start off a little earlier than I usually do, so it's kind of surprising. So it's going to be a little different. So my personal opinion, I'm going to give a couple things about this. One, I'm finally hearing about it now. It happened in 2019, so that should tell you something right now on what I'm going to say. I haven't heard of this anywhere else. I mean, I believe the article is real, like James was saying, but I don't believe it. Trust me on this. If this was something that was being talked about or happened, this wouldn't be on just on that kind of article. It would be everywhere, or somebody would have slipped it out already. I mean, I've heard rumors of this has happened and on other shows, and you got to just get grain of salt. Do I believe the article is real? It might be, probably is. He's right. Do I believe it happened? No. I just don't believe it. I don't think we have that technology yet, and if we do, you're not going to find it out in a paper. You're going to find it accidentally, or they're just going to cover it up for another I'd say another 30, 40 years. We'll find out that actually exists, when it's not able to be used against you. But I don't believe it. I think it's just a funny story. But, I mean, it's interesting. Because I know they were trying to do this stuff. I know that part's true. They are been doing time travel and trying to do what they did in Star Trek, Beam Me Up, Scotty. That was kind of funny. That's where all that teleportation came from. And Star Wars did it, and a couple other sci-fi stuff, the teleportation. But that's where it got really, popular, was Beam Me Up, Scotty, and Star Trek. So, I mean, I know people have been talking about it and they were studying it. I know the Germans were trying to do it. I know the Russians were trying to do it years ago. They were trying to do a lot of things, bring the dead back. And that's a whole other story we could do one day about Stalin's army and the German army and what they were trying to do, make, zombies come alive. And I heard about that. They were trying to do time travel and they were also trying to do teleportation at that time. But do I believe this happened? No. I just think it's probably some made up story or somebody said something they heard over a family member said this, and you know how that goes. My uncle worked in the military, and so he told me this happened, and I'm going to go and tell this paper, because my uncle does work in the military. Then you come and find out the uncle did was it like a Navy cook or something, and then they trying to say he was like in like the Pentagon telling him all this crap. I've heard so many stories, guys. This one especially, and I hate to get off of this subject, but I had a friend. His name was I'm not going to bring up, but he was from another state, and he told me he was an alien, and swear to you that he told me he was an alien. He said his dad and his mom. His dad was an alien. His mom was a human. He was half. Sorry. And he used to tell me this, and he used to have this phone call and saying it was his dad trying to call him from Area 51. And I know this has nothing to do with this, but it just goes on with these stories. But he did have this metal thing he said he had. I could not explain what the hell it was. I've never seen anything like it before. And he had like this hook was weird. So I don't know if he was lying or not. He was a great friend, but he worked doing stuff for the military for the crazy thing, and he was a Knights Templar, but he sweared up and down he was an alien. He told his wife for years this, and I thought he was joking, but he was damn serious. So that's might be where this has come from. Like somebody said something like this, oh yeah, or I was on the part of that military training at the time, and I was on there. It just sounds too good to be true. I don't believe it. I mean, James, I know you're going to tell me what the truth is, but I've heard nothing other than this article about it since, especially if it's September was 6 months ago almost. So now we're finally hearing about it. It just sounds like a tabloid thing. Like, oh, I saw Bigfoot in New Mexico kicking it with the chupacabra, or I've seen a vampire. He's my stepdad. The demon was my girlfriend. It's something like that. That's what it sounds like. Something that's not. I don't believe. I mean, I believe they are, and I'll get this. I do believe they are working on this kind of stuff. Trust me, I believe that. I mean, everything you see on TV, they have some kind of thought or they're trying to do. And what I've learned, because we know people in the industry, that some of the stuff you see on TV, they are trying to make or they're making, and they're just showing it to you as a different form. Like the pulse gun from Eraser, that's supposed to be real. Can make you have a heart attack or blow up your organs. They're really working on something like that. They already have some of the technology where it can see through your body. That's going to be the next guns where they can see what they can hit. It's not like they're just shooting at you. You could see right there the heart. That's going to be the next. That's coming. That's true. They're working on that kind of stuff. They're working on the soldier like the Halo. They got the people from Halo. They're trying to build those kind of suits right now. Not exactly the same, but kind of like that from the Halo game. Like that suit, the Master Chief suit. They're trying to make that right now. I believe that. I believe they are trying to do a teleportation. I believe it. I don't know if they've mastered it yet, but they're probably getting there. And if they do have done it, not saying it's impossible, but we're not going to know about it for a long time. Just like we're not going to know when aliens exist till it actually happens. It's going to happen eventually. They're going to come, and there's going to be no way of saying they don't. But it's going to be something we're going to have to sit here and play around with and wait and just guess to what is real and what isn't. You know what I mean? Like I said, if you believe this, then that's fine. I'm not going to say you're crazy. Come on and look at the show I do. We talk about a lot of things: demons, ghosts, zombies, all kinds of stuff. And I'm not going to down anybody. I just don't believe this story. I believe it. There may be a little bit of truth to it, but I don't believe that was this happened because, like I said, it would have leaked somewhere. Somebody always has a big mouth. I mean, look what goes on in our. I mean, I don't want to bring up what goes on in our government, but God, everything gets leaked. So why wouldn't this get leaked? They leaked pictures of the Navy going after the UFO. I mean, this would have been everywhere. They made a big deal about people charging Area 51. This would have been really big because Star Trek's a very popular show. Teleportation's been very popular, talked about subject, just like Star Wars, all that. They all talk about it, and it's in it. So this would be a very popular subject, and people would be going off the roof. I mean, I've listened to Art Bell's show a long time ago about this. You guys know who Art Bell is, Coast to Coast. And I remember him talking about how this was going to be possible one day. It will, but I don't think it's possible right now. I think they're working on it. I will say that I believe some of it, where the whole truth of them working on it, and maybe they have sent creatures and stuff like that, like not like creatures, but like animals or something. They're trying with that because that's what they usually do first, and then they use human beings next. Now, if they do have this technology, and it's not impossible, we're not going to know about it, like I said, for about 15 to 20 years. And it would be beneficial, but you would have to learn how to do it where it can do more than 5-10 people at a time. If you could teleport somebody from, say, hey, James, I'm going to come visit you in Virginia, and I show up to your house in 2 seconds, that would be great. Or you can send, like, instead of people flying from 6 hours to Hawaii, they're there in 2 seconds. It would be great. It would work out perfect. We would get a lot of rid of airplanes, helicopters, stuff like that. You wouldn't need it anymore. You could just deliver everything. You could deliver weapons right then or anything. It wouldn't matter anymore. The only problem is somebody would use it for something bad. It would there's always some bad on everything. You got to look at the good, but there's always going to be some negative to it. Somebody's going to use it in a bad way. Because, hey, I can teleport here into a bank, and I can come back and took all the money out of there. Hey, I killed somebody and teleported to another country. You're never going to get me. There's bad. I'm not saying I advocate any of this, but that's what there's always going to be somebody who ruins everything. And that happens, guys. There's always somebody who ruins everything because they want to try to make money off of it. And it all comes down to it, money is the root of all evil. And people want to make money. So this would be a perfect way for people to make money. Because you could do a lot of things. You could teleport drugs. I wouldn't even want to bring that up, but you know what I mean. Or stuff, illegal weapons or stuff like that. Back and forth, and we would never know. So that's why it would be really, I think, would there be a downfall of that? It'd be a great a good thing for traveling and saving money and pollution and stuff like that for the environment, but there's always a negative to everything, and I think it would end up being used for something negative. And especially with the world how it is, you could teleport a nuclear bomb to another place and you would never know to be able to stop it, or whatever kind of new bomb. I know they're working on all kinds of new bombs now, something even worse than the nuclear power. That's what I've been hearing. So that's my opinion on it. I mean, I would like to know if you guys later on, if you listen to the show, because I know a lot of people do, give me your opinions. Tell me your comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me what your opinion is. Or do you think it's real or stupid or fake? Just tell me your opinion. Don't be dumb about something, say something rude. I know somebody might, but you know what? Please don't. We don't need no dumb comments. Just be honest, give me your opinion. And we'll answer it or try to tell you, or we'll bring it up on another show. So that's what my opinion is. I don't really believe it, but I believe they are working on it and getting close to it. But I don't believe the story. But it's a good story, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, it's just something, a little bit different than what we usually do. James did get a cold, and James is almost, he has to be dead to stop doing the show. So, That's why I'm kind of talking a little more than I usually to get, keep his voice from going away. But that's my opinion, James. What do you think?
Okay, to figure this out, first off, we have to look at the claim. The claim here, as I said in the beginning, is the military teleported soldiers from Massachusetts to Germany. So let's look at, to start with, has anything been teleported yet that we know of? Well, we know that the Chinese were able to teleport photons to a satellite that was 300 miles away. And they did that using quantum entanglement. Now you might say, okay, you've lost me already. What the hell is quantum entanglement? And I don't blame you for that. It sounds a lot more intricate and confusing than it actually is. Basically, it's where a pair of photons are able to simultaneously share the same state, even when they're separated by vast, vast distances. So it doesn't matter how far away it is. Both of the particles that you're dealing with here are in the same state. And if you change the state of one of them, like say here on Earth, where we are right now, we want to teleport something to the moon. So what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to teleport this photon here to the moon. So you're going to use quantum entanglement. So you're going to record the state of the particle here, and it's going to sync up with another particle on the moon that has the exact same state. And if you change the one here on Earth, the one on the moon changes as well. It's really weird, and nobody really quite understands why it works, but it works. Or at least I don't understand why it works. There might be somebody out there who does or thinks they do, but I'm not the guy that does. But if you change one, the other one changes. And another very strange thing is simply by observing the state, it changes. Very weird. But anyway, that's how they are teleporting things, is by using quantum entanglement. So we know that a photon has been teleported. Has a molecule, let's move up the scale, has a molecule been teleported yet? No. Has DNA been teleported yet? No. Has any inanimate objects been teleported anywhere yet? No. So as we go up the scale, none of that's happened yet. We haven't even quite figured out really how the photon thing works yet, of just sending a single photon. We haven't quite figured out why that works and how it works and been able to do it reliably over vast distances and all that yet. Maybe at some point in the future, a decade from now, maybe 20 years from now, we might be able to actually send a molecule for a certain amount of distance. That would be amazing. Because you have to remember, when you're teleporting, this is going down to the atomic level, okay? You're talking atoms here. So whatever you're teleporting, it's going to break down to its individual atoms. And those individual atoms are going to sync up with atoms on the other side where you're trying to send it that have the exact same state and match, and it's going to reproduce it over there. So here's the problem. Let's for a second forget about the fact that we haven't even mastered photons yet. There's no way we could send anything as complex as a person. Let's pretend that that doesn't exist, okay? Let's pretend that everything I've just said, although it's 100% true, let's pretend I didn't say it. Let's pretend it doesn't exist in the world that we're living in right now. And let's say for some reason that there is no good reason why you couldn't send old boy from California to the mountains of Virginia so we could go fishing. Let's say you could do that. There's still a problem. Because in order to send old boy from California all the way over here to the mountains of Virginia through teleportation, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to break old boy down into the individual atoms that make him up. And then you're going to have to either A, use quantum entanglement and match every one of those atoms up with atoms on this side that have the same state, and then reconstruct him over here. Or B, you're going to have to break him down into individual atoms and transfer them atoms as information on like fiber optic lines or something, all the way across the country. And then reconstitute him once again here on this side. Now you might say, well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is, how the hell do you survive being completely broken down to your individual atoms? Forget the whole sending him all the way across the country thing and just hoping that you're lucky enough that they all go back together the way they're supposed to on this side, which would be incredibly complex. But how do you survive getting broken down into your individual atoms and then put back together again? Is the thing that gets put back together again on the other side still Old Boy? Or is it simply a copy of Old Boy? Will it be alive at all? Will there be any consciousness there? Will he be dead when he gets put back together over here? These are all very, very important questions to answer, because what's the point of sending him from there to here if he's just going to be dead when he gets here? Then I got a mess to clean up. And no co-host. It'd be much easier for him to jump on a plane. Now, it would take longer, but if it's going to kill him, it kind of defeats the purpose. So if you can't teleport people, why would you even bother with teleportation? Well, Amazon would love it. You could order something and it could appear in your house the next minute. They could just teleport whatever it is to your home once we get to that point, because it won't matter whether that thing is alive or dead, because it wasn't alive to start with. Whatever you ordered got sent to you, unless you're ordering pets. You couldn't do that. But I mean, if you order, a piece of electronics or a baseball bat or whatever, and they could just poof it right over to your house. In a way, they've kind of already figured out how to do that, kind of. And it's not actual teleportation, but it's kind of a cheating way to do it. And that's with the new technology of 3D printing. Because now you can download the blueprint for a product, and the software will feed that into your 3D printer, and you can actually print that product if you have the proper materials to print it out of and the proper 3D printer to do that job. So you could print whatever it is you wanted to order here, which is kind of cool. Not teleportation, but in a way, I guess you could roundabout say that it could qualify, maybe. So is this true? Did they send soldiers from Massachusetts to Germany? The answer to that is a resounding, oh, hell no. There's no chance this is true. No chance whatsoever. First of all, science isn't even close yet. Not even close. We've just figured out how to send a photon, which is not complex at all. And even that took a hell of a long time to figure out how to do, and we still don't even understand really why it works or how to do it as much as we want. It's a complex thing. So we haven't even figured that out yet. We can't send molecules. We can't send DNA. We can't send inanimate objects. We can't send them. Maybe if you go 50 years from now, we might figure out how to send like a bacteria or a virus or something. And even that is going to be unbelievably complex. I mean, you might think a little bacteria or a little virus is nothing. No big deal. It's a little tiny nothing. But believe it or not, it is going to be a tremendous undertaking to even figure that out. I mean, let's look at the E. coli bacterium, okay? that contains 9 to the 10th power atoms. Okay, that's a lot. And that is maybe 50 years from now we might be able to pull something like that off. Now, when you're talking a human, which is what they're claiming in this article, a human, it's estimated. Now, I don't have an exact number for you. And I don't think anybody actually knows the exact number. But it's estimated that a human being would have 32 trillion cells. So for those of you keeping score, that is like 31.2 times more than there are stars in the known universe. That's how many cells we're talking here. And then you got to think, you got to break all that down to the individual atoms in order to send it. So what some of the top minds are proposing for the future of teleportation is breaking everything down to that level into data. And then they want to use X-rays. Now, X-rays have super short wavelengths and very high frequencies. And they can carry way more data than the normal, like, optical fibers they use now. So essentially they would break you down into your individual atoms, and that would be turned into data, and that data would be encrypted and then beamed into space. Okay, once it's in space, it's going to bounce off a satellite or two, do the little pinball thing on satellites to get where it needs to go. And then it'll be beamed down to a quantum computer on either the other side of the world or wherever the hell you're trying to beam to. There'll be a quantum computer there, and it will get beamed to that. And then it will unpack that data. It will unencrypt it. It will read it, and then it will reassemble you on the other side. Or whatever you're trying to send, it will reassemble on the other side. Now the problem is, what happens to the original you? Because it's just turning you into data and sending it. So it can be recreated on the other side. But what happens to you? You're not actually going through the X-rays and being beamed over there. You're essentially just disintegrated on this side. So that kind of kills the whole idea of human beings being teleported anywhere. Because once again, as I said, if whatever comes out on the other side is alive, it ain't you. Because you're dead. You just got broken down into all your individual atoms. You poof. You're gone. Whatever thing comes out the other side is not you. So it's not like you're going to walk in there and step into the pod and then you're gone. And then you on the other side and you're back and hey, that was a good ride. Whatever. Hey, how you doing? That's not how it's going to work, man. You're not there anymore. You're dead. Your life is now over. Not going to happen. Now, I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to argue with me on that, and that's fine, because you know what? I might not know what the hell I'm talking about. I know that sounds crazy for somebody to say that to you and admit it, but I'm always telling you the truth on this show. This is my opinion of what would happen to your body if you were broken down into individual atoms. I cannot say for sure 100%, because I have never broke down a human body into its individual atoms. But you know what? Neither is the other person that's going to argue with me. They haven't done it either. So they can't say 100% that you'd survive this. I think common sense tells you you won't. But you may have a different opinion, and that's 100% fine. That's kind of the great thing about science. That's what makes it wonderful, is we can disagree. Once it's proven, then we'll have the answer. But right now it's all theoretical. We have no idea. So you can have different opinions. It's 100% cool. And it's actually good to have different opinions sometimes about some of these things, because when you see things in a different perspective, you get separate viewpoints or different viewpoints on a subject. Sometimes it sparks your brain and it helps you to think of different out-of-the-box ways to do things. Somebody might have a total rubbish theory. I mean, it's garbage. And they're just dumber than a box of bricks. But one thing they say, one little part of that dumb theory that isn't true, sparks something in your brain. And all of a sudden, you look at something just a little bit differently. And then your brilliant theory is even better. And it was made that way by a theory that was garbage. But it sparked something. That's the beauty of it. And I'm not saying my theories are the beautiful theories. My theories might be garbage theories sometimes. Who knows? But all I'm saying is we kind of feed off each other, all of us. The professional scientists, the smartest people in the world, all the way down to the guy who just likes to watch science documentaries and read science books and stuff like that to try to learn on his own. There's value in all of it. I mean, sure, the guys that are doing it for a living are, like the Neil deGrasse Tysons and the Kakus and people like that who are gigantic brain, amazing scientists, who I have the ultimate amount of respect for these gentlemen. They're knocking down doors all over the place. But don't discount the guy at home who's studying his ass off and trying to figure things out too. Because remember, not all the great scientists in history have been big superstar brainiacs who went to the best schools and have degrees and all that kind of stuff. Some of them weren't. Some of them started off just as smart guys who had an interest in it. And there is value there. So don't think you have to have the degree and all that kind of stuff to make a contribution to science. You don't. Now, granted, you're not going to have the lab and all the cool equipment that these gentlemen have. And I'm sorry to say that's just the way it's got to be. Unless you have the money to buy it yourself, but it's pricey as hell. But anyway, so what they want to do is use X-rays to send that data across, but I don't think you'll survive it. Another problem with this is going to be the amount of energy that is going to be required to make this possible. I mean, first of all, to handle that kind of data, because remember, 32 trillion cells, you're going to have massive bandwidth. I mean, we're talking massive amount of bandwidth. And just so many gigawatts of power, you couldn't even imagine it. I mean, probably like 10 trillion gigawatts or something worth of power just to do this. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable. So in other words, like teleporting a single person would require you to completely take over the entire power supply of England, of the United Kingdom, for more than 1 million years. And all that data to transfer it, it would take 4.8 million years to transfer, or about 350,000 times longer than they believe that the universe has actually existed. I mean, that's crazy when you do the numbers. Now, that's always assuming that we're dealing with the same systems we're dealing with now. And you might not be. Because like I said, if this ever happens, it's going to be very far in the future. We're talking at least a century, maybe more, before we can even begin to even think about trying to send a mouse or something. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get there because I don't believe it'll survive. But it's going to be a long time before we're at that point where we can even attempt it. So who knows what kind of systems are going to be operational then? Who knows what methods we're going to use for data transfer? Who knows what kind of methods we're going to use for computing? We might be completely done with the computers we're using today. It might be quantum computing at that point. It might be something we haven't even thought of yet, using crystals or something like that. Who knows? Who knows how we're going to generate our power at that point? We may not be using fossil fuels anymore. We may not be using electricity anymore. We might have learned how to harness dark matter and use that as fuel. Who knows? It's hard to tell what we will be capable of at that time period. So it might be very easy to send that information at that point. It might be very easy to power it at that point because we have such superior capabilities then. But it might not be. Who knows? I know when I was coming up, and I've said this on other episodes, but it's the truth. When I was coming up, I used to love to watch the Jetsons. And the two things that were the coolest on the Jetsons to me were when he flew in there into his work, right? And he gets out of his car and it folds up into his briefcase and he takes it in with him. He didn't have to park because his car folds up into the briefcase and it flies. His car flies. Amazing. So I thought that's what the future is going to be, right? We're going to have flying cars that are going to fold up in our briefcases. And another cool thing is when he would get out of bed, robotic arms would take him all through the thing and shower him and shave him and brush him. And there was a robot that cleaned his house and his dinner would be poof made out of a machine. And I thought, hey, that might be the future. That would be really cool if we had a robot that did our dishes and a machine that made our food and we didn't have to do any of that stuff anymore. It's 2020. We do not have flying cars. We do not have cars that fold up into briefcases. We do not have robots that do our dishes and clean our house. And we don't really have machines that make our food like that either. Now, we have something like it. With the rise of 3D printing, like I talked about earlier, you can get edible printing materials that you can actually print food. But I don't think it's anywhere near the machines on the Jetsons or the machines off the old Star Treks and stuff where the machine would just materialize food for you. It's nowhere near that point yet, but it's an interesting step. And maybe one day we might actually have that technology. Now, I think we could have had flying cars if we wanted them. I believe that. Because the technology definitely exists to make airplanes that fly around. You could make one the size of a car that would operate like a car and still fly. I mean, we have jetpacks, we have helicopters, we have all kinds of things that can fly. I think the reason we didn't go the whole flying car route is because of how crazy people are driving their normal cars. And how they don't pay attention to what the hell they're doing. They're playing on their phones, texting back and forth, playing with the radio, eating fries, goofing off, doing whatever. When I used to commute to work a long time ago, I used to sell construction equipment in Washington, D.C. So I'd have to drive down to the Capitol every day. And on that trip, I saw women putting on their makeup while they're driving the car, looking in the rear view, putting their lipstick on, their eyeshadow, all that kind of stuff, not even watching the damn road, just driving and putting on makeup. I saw guys reading books, going down the freeway, not even looking at the road, just reading a book. I even saw, and this is going to sound insane, but I swear to you it's the honest to God truth. I even saw one gentleman who was eating breakfast. Now, you might think that's not a big deal, man. I eat breakfast in the car all the time as I'm driving. Yeah, go through, get a McGriddle or something and munch it down as I drive. Now, this dude had a homemade breakfast. He had pancakes and sausage and eggs and syrup and the whole nine on a plate with a fork. He must have been driving with his knees or something because he's holding the plate in one hand and he's eating the pancakes with the fork with the other one, cutting them and eating them as he's driving down the interstate. So that kind of behavior is probably why we never got our flying cars, because we're kind of dumbasses when we get behind the wheel. A lot of us are. Now, I don't do that kind of stuff when I drive. I'm a very defensive driver. Because when I was younger, I was a very crazy kind of person. I did some wild stuff. I've driven my car off of cliffs before. I've smashed into things. I hit a cow doing 60 miles an hour. Caved the entire windshield and roof of the car down on my head. I was picking pieces of windshield out of my skull with pliers that night. You do not want to see what a cow does to a Geo Metro, which is what I was driving at the time, when you hit it doing 60 miles an hour. It was insane. And the crazy thing was the cow's head went over one side of the hood and hit and knocked the mirror off that side. His butt went off the other side of the hood and knocked the mirror off that side. And then he fell off, got up, shook himself, looked back at me like I was an ass, and then walked away. But what was funny is my passenger side mirror, the one that says objects in this mirror may be closer than they appear, was lodged inside of his rectum. So he had my mirror in his ass. And my lights were on because it was nighttime when I hit him. So as he's walking away, I don't know if you've ever seen a cow walk, but they kind of shake their hips when they walk. So as he's walking away, my headlights are hitting that mirror as he's swaying. And it's like his ass is winking at me as he leaves. So I'm laying there in my car, windshield in my face, blood everywhere, pieces of glass sticking out of my skull. The cow just looked at me like I was a bad guy, and his ass is winking at me as he's walking away. And he just went off into a field somewhere and did his thing. He was fine, I guess. My car was ruined. And it was a very bad thing. So because of situations like that, where I drove way too fast and drove very recklessly, I've had a lot of accidents, and I've had a lot of very sketchy and scary moments in my vehicle. So because of that behavior when I was younger, I am now a very defensive driver because I'm always worried that somebody like I used to be is out there on the road and I'm getting ready to run into them. So I'm very careful. I watch everybody and make sure what's going on. But I wasn't always that way. So that's the reason we don't have flying cars, in my opinion. But that's pretty much all I have to say about the teleportation thing. I don't think the article's true at all. I think it's complete BS because I don't think it's possible to teleport humans. I don't think it ever will be. I mean, sure, you could do it. We'll reach a point where you'll be able to teleport things to someplace else because it's not impossible to do. We will figure it out. But I don't think you'll ever be able to do it to a human and have that human survive. Now, you could do it to a human if you wanted to. It would work. But I don't think they'd come out on the other side alive. I think it'd be just a dead body. That's my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you think. If you think it'll work, if you think it won't work. And if you think it will work, explain to me, if you can, why it will work. How would you be able to survive your body being broken down into the individual atoms and then reconstruct it somewhere else? How would that work? Because I just honestly don't see a way that you would survive it. But if you believe that you will, please enlighten me down in the comments. I would be very interested to hear your opinion. So that being said, I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy and get his opinion now on what he's heard of the actual science. It's kind of cool because he kind of had the same opinion as me without knowing all the science. So I'd like to get his reaction to the science, and then he can go ahead and do his shout-outs and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you, brother. Pretty much, the science part of it, I was listening to it, but, I ain't no genius on it. I do agree with him. It's going to probably be a very long time, or probably hundreds of years before we actually can be able to not kill me like he was using me for example. Thanks again. But if you go from point A to point B, you have to change all the molecules in your body. And you don't know what can happen. All it does is take, right when you're getting ready to do it, a piece of wind or something coming out and blow one little magic, I forget it. And that's it. I'm done. There's going to be pieces of me, or I won't even be the same. So that's what could happen. I could probably die, or just using me for example, because we've been using me anyway. I love how he always uses me for the example. Thanks. But that's what would happen. All these molecules would go everywhere. And I would be nothing. Or I have no leg or something. Like they showed it on some, I think there was a couple one where the leg had one arm or lost a leg. It was fun. I forget what movie it was. It was
What about,
funny.
hey, Old Boy, what about that movie The Fly? You remember that with Jeff Goldblum? Where the fly gets into the chamber and his DNA or his atoms or whatever gets mixed with Jeff Goldblum when he's reconstituted on the other side, and that's how he becomes the fly. What if something like that was to happen?
that could happen. That's what I was basically saying, pretty much, and that could happen. Like I could get blown in half or something. I've seen one where like the guy's head just goes and that's it. There's no body, and it was I forget what movie it was. It was supposed to be funny. I think it was Spaceballs. I think I don't remember. I know they were making fun of it too, but yeah, it could happen. You could get a fly and then you can mutate into a fly or something. You know, half man, half fly, or a beetle will come in there and all of a sudden you become Beetle Boy. It's just that could happen, and I agree with that part of it. I think it's going to be a very long time, or never, that we're going to be able to transport a person. Maybe things and merchandise and stuff like that. Like he was saying, Amazon, they make millions of dollars, billions of dollars off of that, because you would be able to go, hey, I want this movie right then and there. It comes right in your hand. Think about that, guys. Anything. It would be crazy. Say I want the new iPad or something. I want it now. It comes right then after you paid for it. That would be where it would be great. But then, like I said, there was always going to be the downfalls of people using it for bad things. And that's the problem you're always going to have. But that's what happens with everything. There's always going to be a good and a bad about everything. But yes, I do agree with what James says. It's probably never going to happen, or if it does, it won't be in our lifetime. Trust me. It won't be like the Jetsons. I don't believe. I think we're 2020 and we don't. When he said that is not 100% true. They have had people try to make flying cars, but they just don't work. But we're not even close to what we thought we were going to be. But remember, during the 60s and 70s, we were flourishing, and now we just all of a sudden I was talking about this the other day, and then I'll hurry up and get done because I don't know if we have time. But look at our cars. I mean, cars are getting better, but they're still running off of pretty much gas. Yeah, some of them run off electricity, but they're still the same concept. We're not getting any farther on stuff like with technology, yes, but like our, NASA and all that, we're just not doing what we were doing 40 years ago. And I think we're stuck right now. And I think that we will get past this, but we were stuck still on this level. So that's all I got to say about that. I hope you guys all enjoyed the show. We try to do something different for you guys this week. James's voice was just not doing good. Hopefully he gets better, so next week we can do a great show. I hope you guys join. It's almost, a couple more weeks. It'll be March, almost spring. So hopefully it gets a little warmer because it's even been cold in California, guys. So you guys listen to our old shows on Parax Radio. Subscribe to James Hershey Jr.'s page. You know where to go. You want to get merchandise, he'll tell you where to go. Shirts, iPhone cases, blankets, whatever you want. Let us know. Even if we need an autograph or special make a t-shirt for you, we can do that. Let us know in the comments. So I hope everybody had a great night. I enjoyed doing this episode. It was fun, something different, something to laugh about. So you guys can have something to laugh about. Leave your comments. Leave your opinions. Let us know what you think. Give us comments about other shows you would like to hear. We also have the Staring into the Abyss fan page on Facebook for the fan group page now. Justin Cool is going to be running that for us, so we'll eventually have him on in a couple of weeks to talk about that a little bit one day. And so I hope you all have a good night. Misfits, Sugar Ladies, Monster Hunters, and Demon Lovers, I love you. Have a great night, and blessed be.
Yeah, the idea of interference should be terrifying to everyone. When that data is being transferred over of something corrupting that data, whether it is, in the case of the Fly movie, a fly getting into the containment thing or something, or just any old thing, a speck of dust, a random virus or random piece of bacteria, something getting mixed in, something we can't even see with the human eye, but is fully capable of screwing everything up, getting somehow mixed in with the data that makes up you. What would that do to your body? Who knows? That's the scary thing, is it's never been done before, so who knows what that stuff could do to you. Now, this is obviously all going to have to be controlled and run by computers. And that's another scary thought, because as you know, anybody who's ever used computers, they glitch out. They freeze sometimes for no apparent reason. You get a lot of errors sometimes for no apparent reason. And the new thing that happens all the time with computers, which didn't used to be the way it was in the old days, is whenever it needs to update something, all of a sudden it doesn't work right anymore until it updates. And it has to update damn near every day, at least every couple. And you always know, or at least I always know when I need an update on my computers, because nothing works the way it's supposed to work anymore. Everything takes longer to work. It doesn't record right. It doesn't play audio right. Nothing works the way it's supposed to work because the damn thing has decided it wants to update, and it's going to screw everything up for me until I update it. That's a frightening idea as well. What happens if, let's use Old Boy as the example again, as we did before, he wants to teleport somewhere. Everything works great on his end. He gets lucky and it breaks him down into data and it starts sending him across. And then all of a sudden, the computer on the other side needs an update. And nobody bothered to do it before he got sent over, and now it's not working right. So it's glitching. So that transfer doesn't go through all the way. It gets corrupted somehow. Something's left out. When he gets reconstituted, maybe he doesn't have a leg, maybe he doesn't have an ear, maybe he doesn't have a nose. Or maybe everything on the outside looks normal. But it's something real important inside that isn't there anymore. And I'm not talking an organ, because that's made up of just hundreds of thousands of atoms. I'm talking about maybe just one little chain in a sequence of his genome that causes him to have an immune system or something. And then all of a sudden he's the boy in the bubble and he can't get sick because he'll die. You know what I mean? Who knows what could happen? It's so complex, it's so mind-blowingly complex that I don't think we'll ever fully understand how to do it properly because there's too many variables that could take place. It would have to be such a enclosed system that would have to be done almost in a vacuum to where nothing could get in. Because just the tiniest microbe gets in and it gets mixed in with your data or your signal or whatever it is that is going to reconstitute you and gets added into the mix, and you're not you anymore. You're a completely different thing. And that's assuming that I'm wrong about you not even surviving the trip in the first place. That's crazy to think about. So it would have to literally be an enclosed vacuum where not even air could exist. So they would have to reconstitute you and then immediately open that thing up so you could breathe. But it's a frightening thought because anything that gets in is going to corrupt it. So you'd have to do it to where it's completely sealed off. So that's kind of an amazing little idea. But anyway, we are out of time. So now for the shameless plugs, the YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where all the episodes of Staring are. There's a bunch of other stuff there. It's 100% free. So please go to the channel, like the videos you watch, and subscribe to the channel. It's a lot of really cool stuff for you. There's every episode of Staring. There's every episode of Tales. We have paranormal news videos where we present articles about the stuff we talk about on these shows a lot of times. And you can actually see the article for yourself as on the computer. And I'll read it along with you, and you can read along as I read it. And I'll comment a little bit on each article, and you can get a lot of information that you didn't know was out there, that is in the news, that nobody really talks about. So there's a lot of those there as well. So please, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's teespring.com/store with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, the link to the merch store is in the description. So if you're interested in merchandise, there's shirts, hoodies, posters, iPhone cases, pillows, towels, blah, blah, etc. There's a bunch of stuff there. So if it's merch is something you're into and you want some steering merch, that's where you can find it. As always, thank you guys so much for all of your support and for listening to all the shows. We really appreciate you. And until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.